Amara's story didn't begin with privilege. It began in a small village nestled between the low hills of Enugu State, where red dust kissed every child's feet and dreams were often limited by what you could see beyond the farms and the church bell. She was the third child of five, born to a retired schoolteacher and a petty trader who sold Accra by the roadside. Their family compound was humble. A bungalow with rusted zinc roofing, cracked walls, and a pit toilet tucked behind a rickety fence of bamboo and old zinc sheets. They didn't have much, but what they lacked in wealth, they made up for with discipline, prayer, and love. Amara was different. Everyone in the village said so. At just 5 years old, she could recite Bible verses faster than the Sunday school teacher. By 7, she was helping her younger siblings with their homework, even correcting the village headmaster once when he got a math question wrong during a school inspection. But brilliance doesn't stop firewood from needing to be fetched. Each morning before the sun rose, Amara would tie her faded wrapper tightly, balance a metal basin on her head, and head for the stream. There she would fetch water, help her mother light the fire, and then fry Accra before going to school, often on an empty stomach. After school, she would walk to the farm or hawk snacks to support the family. Yet, her books were never neglected. She read by candlelight when kerosene ran out and tutored classmates for free after classes. Her WAC results came as a shock to the entire village, 9A1S, the highest in the entire local government area. The news spread like wildfire. The girl who wore torn sandals and patched uniforms had broken a record no one expected. It didn't take long before an NGO stepped in. They offered her a full scholarship to study at one of Nigeria's most prestigious private universities. Her mother cried the day she received her admission letter. Her father, quiet and proud, simply nodded and muttered, "This girl will sit among kings." Amara left the village with a small Ghana must-go bag, a heart full of fire, and a promise to return with more than just a degree. The private university was a different world entirely. Everything sparkled. Marble floors, air-conditioned lecture halls, students who arrived in Benz and BMWs. For a girl who had only ever seen a television from a neighbor's window, it felt like stepping into a Nollywood film. She kept her head low, observed, and adapted. While others flaunted designer bags and spoke with accents from weekend trips abroad, Amara sat at the front row, answered questions with confidence, and quickly became the professor's favorite. Her GPA soared. Her dressing changed slowly. Not to blend in, but to reflect her quiet dignity. She may have come from a mud-walled village, but she walked like someone who knew where she was going. That was where he noticed her, Tolu Adegbite, the billionaire's son. Tolu was everything Amara was not: loud, proud, spoiled, and annoyingly charming. He strolled into class late, wearing designer shoes and chewing gum like a secondary school bad boy. He had never failed a test, not because he was smart, but because money had always made life convenient. But that day, during a heated debate in class about ethics and leadership, Amara stood up and boldly contradicted him. The class went quiet. Tolu laughed. "Who's this bush girl?" he asked, half joking. But Amara wasn't fazed. She responded with calm brilliance, quoting facts, referencing books, and leaving even the lecturer impressed. That was the moment Tolu's curiosity was piqued. He didn't know it yet, but the village girl he just tried to mock would soon become the one person he couldn't outwit. Not with his money, not with his charm, not even with his father's power. Amara had begun her journey, not just to the top of her class, but into a game she didn't ask for, one where the stakes would include love, pride, and ultimately, respect. And in that first semester, as she walked past Tolu's crew without flinching, fire was still in her memory and fire still in her eyes. One thing became clear: she didn't just belong there. She was built for it. If there was one thing Tolu Adegbite couldn't stand, it was being ignored, especially by a girl. Born into the kind of wealth that made headlines, Tolu had never had to ask twice for anything. Girls swooned at the mere mention of his name. Lecturers turned a blind eye to his arrogance, and his father's money paved a path so smooth he had never learned to climb, only cruise. But Amara? She didn't flinch, didn't stutter, and worst of all, didn't care. He had tried everything. One morning, he sent her breakfast through a popular campus food delivery girl. She returned it untouched with a simple note. I don't accept food from strangers, especially ones who insult. That was the first slap, not with palm, but with pen. Tolu's friends, a group of equally wealthy and mischievous boys, laughed it off. She's playing hard to get, they said. Give her 2 weeks, max. But 2 weeks passed, then a month. Amara kept acing class projects, leading group presentations, and sitting at the front like the lioness she was. Her natural beauty stood out in a campus filled with artificial flash, brown skin glowing, always with neatly braided hair, and a calm aura that made noise seem foolish. She didn't wear designer shoes, yet she walked with elegance. She didn't speak Queen's English, yet every word she said carried weight, and that irritated Tolu to no end. He began to challenge her in class. If she made a point, he'd raise a counterpoint, even when he didn't fully understand what she was saying. Amara would smile calmly, respond with facts, and then turn back to her notes like he wasn't even worth the extra breath. The more he tried to rattle her, the more he fell into his own trap. Amara had grown up dodging insults from market women, negotiating with stubborn traders, and teaching herself advanced math with a borrowed textbook. A rich boy's ego didn't scare her. She had seen hunger, loss, and rejection. His shallow arrogance was child's play. One day after class, Tolu cornered her near the library. His friends watched from a distance, hoping this would be the moment the great Tolu Adegbite finally broke the village girl. You don't like me? He asked, leaning on a pillar like a Nollywood villain. Amara looked him straight in the eye. I don't know you, she replied, and what I've seen so far, I don't like. That was the first time in a long while Tolu had nothing to say. He stood there, momentarily frozen as Amara walked past him, books in hand, head high. His friends teased him for days. Memes were made. Tweets flew across campus gossip pages. Breaking: Billionaire's son gets rejected by untouchable village girl. But for Amara, it wasn't about pride or pettiness. She wasn't just rejecting Tolu. She was rejecting everything he represented. Entitlement, laziness, disrespect, and manipulation disguised as charm. Yet, even as she stayed focused on her goals, she couldn't ignore one thing. The boy was watching her differently now. Not with mockery, not with contempt, but with something else, something dangerously close to admiration. And deep in the background, unknown to Amara, a cruel bet was being made, a wager that would test everything she stood for. But for now, she remained the unshaken girl who knew who she was. Brains, beauty, and bravery in equal measure. The campus cafeteria was unusually lively that evening. Laughter echoed off the tiled walls, plates clattered, and the air buzzed with the scent of suya and gossip. But in one corner, around a VIP table meant only for the untouchables of campus society, a dangerous idea was brewing. Tolu Adegbite sat with his usual circle, Oba, Daimeji, and Kelvin, sons of senators, oil moguls, and tech CEOs. Their conversations usually floated between new sneakers, international trips, in which lecturer could be bribed with the least effort. But that day, the topic was Amara. Guy, this babe day enter your eye well, Oba teased, sipping from his bottle of malt. Abi you don fall in love? Daimeji mocked, slapping the table. Tolu scoffed and leaned back in his chair, arms folded across his designer polo. Me? Love? For that bush girl? Then prove it, Kelvin challenged. If she's nothing special, make her fall for you. There was a pause. Then Oba leaned in. Let's make it interesting. In 100, 000 each. 4 of us. Winner takes all. You make her fall, genuinely fall, and get her to date you. Just for 1 month. Tolu chuckled. It wasn't about the money. It was about pride, revenge, a bruised ego looking for balm. You people think I can't? He asked. Not with that one, Oba said, raising a brow. She no be your regular slay queen. And that was it. That single sentence lit the fire. I'll make her fall, Tolu said, lips curled in a confident smirk. And when I do, I want my money in fresh mint bundles. The boys burst into cheers. The bet was sealed. But unknown to them, Amara had overheard the last part of the conversation as she walked past behind the cafe pillars, clutching her books and heading toward the library. She paused, heart pounding, every nerve alert. I'll make her fall. She knew immediately who they were talking about. Who else could it be? That night, Amara didn't cry. She didn't get angry. She got quiet. Quiet, calculating, and calm. In her village, she had learned to spot snakes in the grass. And this snake was loud, wore designer cologne, and liked to laugh too much. She smiled to herself, remembering her mother's words. Not every battle is won with fists. Sometimes, you let your enemy dig his own hole, then you hand him the shovel. From that moment on, Amara switched strategy. She stopped avoiding Tolu. She became polite, engaging, just enough to lure him in. She laughed at his jokes, asked him questions in class, even complimented his debate points. Tolu was shocked. His friends clapped him on the back. Omo, it's working. But Amara had a different goal. She began documenting every interaction, every chat, every note, every gift. She saved screenshots, forwarded voice notes to her private email. She wasn't just watching him, she was gathering evidence. Tolu, meanwhile, was spiraling deeper. He started skipping club nights to walk her to the hostel gate. He began reading articles just to impress her. For the first time, he listened, really listened, to someone outside his wealth bubble. She made him think, made him question his own privilege. And in the process, something unexpected started happening. Tolu began to feel, not just for the game, not for the prize, but for the girl who looked him in the eye without flinching. The girl who taught him how to earn respect without money. The girl who had, without lifting a finger, flipped the entire game on him. But it was too late, because the trap had already been set, and Amara, the so-called village girl, was about to show everyone, including the billionaire's son, that when you bet against a woman with both brains and backbone, the only thing you win is regret. Tolu Adegbite didn't realize when the lines blurred. What started as a cruel game, a simple bet to conquer the campus village girl, had become a journey of self-confrontation. Every day he spent with Amara peeled back a layer of his arrogance, exposing thoughts and feelings he had never given space to before. She wasn't like anyone he knew. Amara didn't need luxury to be confident. She didn't need filters to be beautiful. She carried herself with grace. And the more time Tolu spent with her, the more he found himself questioning everything about his old life. He had begun volunteering, at her suggestion, for the university's literacy outreach program. At first, he did it to impress her. But when he saw the joy on a young boy's face as he read his first sentence, something shifted in him. This feels good, he said aloud one evening as they walked away from a school visit. Amara glanced at him and smiled. Service humbles you. It reminds you the world is bigger than your reflection. Tolu didn't respond. He didn't need to. That night, he couldn't sleep. He replayed their conversations in his mind. Not the flirty jokes, but the deep ones, when she spoke about her late father, about struggling through school with no money but plenty of prayer, about choosing dignity over desperation. He didn't know when admiration turned into something more serious. His friends noticed the change. He started missing their hangouts. He became quiet, reflective. He even stopped updating the group chat with progress about the bet. You day fall for this babe for real? Oba asked him one afternoon, a hint of concern in his tone. Tolu didn't answer. He just sighed, his eyes fixed on his phone screen where Amara had sent a message. Thanks for listening today. You make it easier to hope." That was the moment he knew. It wasn't a game anymore. But how could he tell her? How do you confess love to someone you approach with lies? And then, the universe answered for him. It started with a leaked voice note. One of the guys from his crew, in a drunken moment of foolishness, sent it to a mutual friend. Within hours, the voice note spread like wildfire through campus WhatsApp groups. "Guy, just get her to fall. Not 1 month matter. After that, ghost her. We go cash out." Amara's name was never mentioned, but everyone knew. It exploded on campus. Gossip blogs picked it up. The story of the village girl who was the target of a cruel bet by a billionaire's son was too juicy to ignore. Amara received the audio at 7:13 a.m. She played it once, twice. Her hands trembled. Her stomach clenched. Not because of the betrayal, but because a small, dangerous part of her had started to believe him, to like him. She didn't cry. Instead, she walked to her wardrobe, picked out a simple gown, tied her hair, and walked out the door. Not to hide, but to show up. By noon, she stood at the center of the school's student hall, where the student union was hosting a town hall. Reporters were present. Students were watching. Even lecturers came in out of curiosity. And that's where she spoke. "I was not the fool," she said into the mic, her voice steady. "They were. For thinking that women are playthings. For thinking that my worth is defined by how many of them wanted me." She paused. "But thank you. Because now, the world is watching." The hall erupted in applause. Some students cried. Some stared in silence. But everyone felt it. Something had shifted. Tolu didn't attend. He watched from the back, his hoodie pulled low. Every word pierced deeper than the last. He knew he had ruined everything. The girl he had once mocked had become a movement, and all he could do now was figure out how to make peace with her and with himself. Because Tolu Adegbite had finally fallen hard. The scandal had gone beyond the campus. Local blogs and gossip forums ran the headline. "Village girl outsmarts billionaire's son in cruel love bet." Some called Amara the face of dignity. Others called Tolu a privileged predator. But neither of them spoke to the media. Not at first. Amara kept her head down and focused on her scholarship applications and final year project. The truth had done what it needed to do. Exposed the cruelty, shattered illusions, and set her free. But Tolu wasn't done. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to hide behind. No money, no connections, no smooth talk could undo the damage. His friends distanced themselves, afraid of being caught in the backlash. His father called from abroad, livid. "Do you know how this affects our name, Tolu? I won't let you throw your future away over one village girl." But Tolu had stopped caring about name and image. What mattered now was Amara, and the apology she deserved. He tried to approach her on campus once, but she walked past him like air. He sent texts, left voice messages, wrote an actual letter, something he'd never done in his life. No response. Then, one afternoon, during the school's Women in Leadership conference, Amara was invited to speak. The crowd was packed. She walked up confidently in a simple Ankara dress, her natural hair wrapped in a bold head tie. She spoke of resilience, of being underestimated, of loving oneself in a world that constantly tries to break you. And then, in the final minutes, she paused. "I learned something from that experience," she said. "That pain doesn't always come to destroy, it sometimes comes to build. And sometimes, those who hurt you the most force you to become your strongest self." The crowd applauded, but one figure stood silently at the back. Tolu. When she stepped off the stage, he approached again. Not with flowers or grand gestures, but with sincerity. "Amara," he said, eyes filled with something she had never seen in him before, humility. "You don't have to forgive me, but I need you to know. I fell in love with you for real, and I'm sorry I started the way I did. I'm working on myself, even if you never look my way again." She looked at him. This time, she didn't walk away. "Good," she said softly. Work on yourself. Not for me. For you. And that was it. No dramatic reunion. No forced fairy tale ending. Just a truth exchanged between two people who had changed each other. Months passed. Amara graduated top of her class and received a full scholarship to study abroad. She left with her head high and dreams taller than ever. Tolu took time off school, started therapy, and began volunteering full-time. He used his platform to support scholarships for underprivileged students quietly, anonymously. He never used Amara's name again for clout. He had learned. 1 year later, Amara received a package in the mail, an anonymous donation made to her hometown school library. Inside was a simple note. "Thank you for teaching me what wealth really means." She smiled. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't public humiliation. It's becoming the person they never thought you could be. And in that, Amara had truly won. The village girl didn't just outsmart the billionaire's son, she outgrew him.